up YouTube? Sake1 here with an update video on my 75-gallon custom reef tank. I'm going to be going over a couple new additions that I've added to the tank as far as corals go and some livestock. And I'm going to give an update on my two-part dosing and some of the things I've discovered as well as additives. Let's get right into it then. My first new addition is this lovely brain coral. He is awesome. I'm really liking him. The guy at the fish store got a good deal on him. He said he's got some other ones. I really want a pink and blue one, and he said he had one, so he's going to bring it up there. I should have that on Tuesday. Really like him. He's fun to watch eat. He's got about 4 mouths, and he about doubled in size once I added him to the tank compared to what he was in the fish store. Really cool. Also added this purple cup coral. It's got green polyps. It's pretty neat looking. And then I wound up getting a really good deal on this little broken chalice back here. I don't know if you can see him very well. I think he's called a Big Pimpin'. You can see about half of him is snapped off. I cut that away. It was pretty dead. He wasn't really getting a lot of good light in the tank he was in the fish store, and they kind of just threw him in there. Also added this Montipora here. He's bright orange, and then I added this green Montipora here. It's not really a deep fluorescent green, but I still like him. He's starting to color up a little bit. I'm going to get into some additives that I've been putting in the tank too that have been helping with that. And of course, increased in my zoanthid garden. I don't know, remember what I showed you guys last time. Added these guys over here. They're kind of a purple, they got a bluish green mouth with a purple ring and then green tentacles right above them. Got these, got an orange center with kind of a purple rim and green tentacles. And then over here I got these with a pink mouth, a purple rim, and green tentacles. And then up top here I got these, which are, shit, I can't remember the name of those. They are, well, they're red. And then right next to them, I got those green and yellow ones. Kind of got a purple disc with the green tentacles. And I think that's pretty much it as far as new, red hornets is, I believe, what those are called. I think that's pretty much it as far as new additions go. I'm not sure if I showed you guys this acro I picked up here. Kind of crazy looking thing. And then, oh yeah, the ORA bird's nest I also picked up. Most of these I got from my local fish store guy's house. You can see that things have started to color back up since my last little faux pas. The thing I'm tracking as far as color goes is this guy here. Remember my last video, he was a real fleshy brown. He's starting to get some of that vibrant electric green back, which is good. I think he depleted himself of his algae when I went through my experimental phase. And then also I like to keep an eye on this guy down here as a good indicator. He's coloring up good. He's starting to turn kind of a bluish green, which is strange. But when the blue lights come on, or the actinic lights, he gets really, really deep, vibrant green. And this guy down here, he bleached a little bit, so I moved him into the shade. He's not looking too good. He just wasn't coloring back up. All of this happened again when my alkalinity and my calcium went just way out of whack. So I got some additives, and I was talking to my local fish store guy about trace elements, and one of the things he recommended was this right here, Coral Colors by Red Sea. It's a B, C, and D. Basically it's 4 supplements in the pack, and it's kind of tricky because you got to do a little bit of math to be able to figure out how much to dose. There's no instructions in here, just like everything else in this hobby. So I don't know if somebody took the book out of the box or what not have you, but there were no instructions in it. So I had to do a lot of math. Basically, what those tell you is you're supposed to add those elements based on the rate of consumption of your calcium by your corals per part per million. So I had to do a little bit of math, and one of the things I discovered was that my alkalinity, I was dosing 391 milliliters a day, and my calcium, I was dosing 252 milliliters a day. So I went online just to see if those numbers were on par with what other people were doing, and man, my stuff was way, way high. And another indicator that my calcium and my alkalinity dosing levels were way, way high, even though they were coming out within the ranges that I wanted on my test kits, they were still, I was putting in more than I needed to, and as a result of that, I was getting a significant amount of carbonate buildup, and every single pump within a week in my system went down because of just calcium carbonate buildup on everything. From my main pump, my wife called me one day at work and said something's wrong. The sump is flooding. So I had to come home, and I had a backup pump. That's another little note I want to put out there. Always have backup pumps for everything if you can, which came in real handy. And I thought that the pump was shot, but what I did was I soaked it in a mix of vinegar and water, just regular tap water. I didn't want to, use any RO water or anything like that. And I let it set for about a day, and then the next day I plugged it in, and it wanted to come back on, but it didn't. So I took the outer part off, and I pulled the wheel and the impeller out, and just kind of twisted it a little bit and broke free some of that calcium carbonate, put it back in there, and it fired right up. And then I let it run for a day, and sure enough, it worked fine after that. So I still have a backup main pump, which I'm glad about. After that, my GFO, or my reactor pump, it shut down, and I did the same thing with it. Then my skimmer pump went out. I did the same thing with it, and then my power heads went out, did the same thing with those. So it's something that's a good indicator that you're overdosing your calcium and your alkalinity and creating too much calcium carbonate in your system, is your pumps are going to start to seize up. And I should have been watching my heaters more, because that buildup really starts to accumulate there first. But I mean, even my sand was all crusty. Everything was just not happy. So what I did was I went online and I looked up the recommended levels for my tank size, which is 75 gallon. I got a 29 gallon sump underneath. It's about halfway full, so you're looking at about 90 total gallons when you're talking complete volume, and nobody was dosing over 250 milliliters of alkalinity in a day, and I was at 391. So that was a pretty big indicator. And then I checked my magnesium levels, and they were pretty depleted too. So my system was a little bit out of whack. I had noticed that all the times that I had checked my alkalinity, for the most part, or my magnesium, for the most part, it was within or above the level I wanted. I was doing water changes once a week, and I started doing them every 2 weeks now, so that my system would get a little bit more stable. And that was when I noticed that my magnesium level started to drop. So once I got my magnesium level where I wanted it to be, then I used a starting point of 225 milliliters a day of alkalinity and 200 milliliters a day of calcium. And from there, I just kind of adjusted the levels. The alkalinity was dead on. I mean, it's been between 9 and 10 DKH every time I've tested it. I've maintained my magnesium between 1250 and 1350. And the only thing that I've had to up even slightly was my calcium. So I'm at about 215 milliliters of calcium a day and 250 milliliters of alkalinity a day. So just because your test kit's reading right with your calcium and your alkalinity, pay attention to your pumps and pay attention to your heaters and watch for that calcium carbonate buildup. Another thing I discovered online was I really started to study the chemistry of the reef tank a little bit more. And there's a man by the name of Holmes-Farley who writes for Reef Keeping Magazine, and the guy's got tons and tons and tons of articles on calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, trace elements, everything you could ever want. So I'm really going to try to pump that guy in this video. I might even include a link in the video on how to get to some of his articles. But all in all, that was some of the most helpful stuff that I had ever read when it came to the chemistry of the reef tank, which is very important that you understand all that stuff, especially as a new hobbyist. I tend to just jump into things a little bit, And had I understood the reef chemistry a little bit more, I could have avoided a few catastrophes. And I'm hoping you guys learn from my mistakes so that you don't go through the same mistakes I do. Because my usual first response when something's going wrong is to panic. And then I test. And then I panic some more when I find out something's high. And then I research. And then I panic some more because I find out my research that I've done terrible things. And then I fix it. So it can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster if you're someone like me. Also, in addition to the corals I also added some shrimp. I don't know if you can see them back here. I got this blood red shrimp here, and right above him is a little cleaner shrimp. And I also had a peppermint shrimp in there, but I've had bad luck with them. He's the second one I tried to put in there and he died. The good news is, before he died, he ate every single Aptasia in my tank. And I'm not sure what killed him. I just woke up in the morning and didn't see him, and the starfish had a hold of him, and he was pretty much toast. But I like using the peppermint shrimp to get rid of the Aptasias as opposed to using the Aptasia X stuff that I'd used before. I don't like putting chemicals in my tank if I don't have to. So I highly recommend him. And I did see one Aptasia that survived, so I'm going to let them, I guess, populate some more, and then I'll go pick up another shrimp, and we'll go from there. So I think that's about it. Thanks for watching, you guys. As always, if you have any questions or if there's anything you see I'm doing wrong or I could do better, please let me know. Thanks.